Welcome, replay viewers, and good afternoon again, everybody. And welcome to our peaceful setting here on Eastern Long Island, New York. Well, it was peaceful until the geese decided to fly over. Lucky Dog, hello to you. How are you doing? Are you still at work, Lucky Dog, or do you finally get a day off? I imagine it is just beyond belief at the hospital right now. Hi, Patrick. How are you? You have the day off today. I'm glad to hear that. So thank goodness for that. So I'm sure you're still working your 12 to 14 hours a day and just busier than you've probably been in your entire life. Okay, good. Any of you other folks watching me right now and joining this broadcast, Lucky Dog, who's watching us and is a nearby friend, is one of our frontline troops, a nurse at the Stony Brook Medical Center. So I want everyone to give him a big cheer and a big salute, because Lucky Dog and his colleagues deserve all the support that we can give them. Well, let's see what we can do here just to enjoy this calm day. Well, that may be a good sign then. I know I was listening to Governor Cuomo's press conference at noon today, and I guess he mentioned that statistic that the number of people being discharged now is equal to the number of people coming in. Not that we're out of anything yet, not that we're over with it yet, right? But perhaps it is starting to flatten out. Countess X, thank you. Thank you for recognizing my friend Lucky Dog here on Long Island and his colleagues. Well, I hope so, Lucky Dog. I hope so for everybody, especially for you at the hospital and all the folks that you work with, and of course all the patients over there. We've cut down on our trips off of the property. Jean and I are staying very close to home right now, and maybe we go out to the store maybe once every 5 days rather than once every other day. Yes, I did. I absolutely got that up earlier today, and let me show you that. Hey, let's take a walk around and show everybody what Lucky Dog is talking about. I'm down here in my front yard, and we have what we call the purple martin houses in anticipation of purple martins, North America's largest swallow, arriving back here for the summer. Hey, I don't want to look right into the sun. So on the 6th of April, yeah, there's the second house, raised up to the full up position. So the bottom of these houses is 12 feet above ground level. So there's our second house. I call it the southeast quadrant. And then we'll look over here and we'll show you the first house that went up a couple of weeks ago. No birds yet though, unfortunately. Although I see there's been a report of several arrivals in Connecticut now, so We've had the one report from Patchogue. Nothing here in our area yet, and nothing to the east of us. But last year it ran late. I think last year was like April 11th before they arrived. Oh, well, thank you for that thought, Countess X, Countess 10, X or 10. I have family in Torrance. I have a younger cousin who lives in Torrance, right in the LA basin, he and his wife, so I'm concerned about them. We have nieces and nephews in San Diego County, so we're worried about people out that way. No, a lucky dog, to answer your question, in the past I've put 3 houses up, but I'm not going to put the 3rd house up this year, because at the end of the year, from last year, the number of cavities that were used, it wouldn't justify it. I had some empty cavities in these 2 houses, plus the 3rd house. So we're going to try it with 2 houses right now. So that's 28. That's 28 cavities. Right? There's the 12. No, let me recount that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 10 wood house compartments and the 4 plastic gourd compartments under each house. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, we're located about 65 miles east of New York City, Midtown Manhattan, here on the south shore of Long Island, New York. We're about halfway out from the tip of Brooklyn to the end of the island at Montauk Point. This is along the south shore. And if I look over to my south here, which is the direction I'm going now, let me just zoom in a little bit and I'll show you that. I'll try to keep this steady. I have my iPhone in my DJI gimbal, Osmo 3 gimbal. Let's tilt this before we do that. So that should keep the picture steady. All right, now let me zoom in. This is looking to the south. If I need the space, Lucky Dog, I probably could, but I'm going to try to avoid it because, truthfully, I'm getting lazy in my old age here. It's quite a chore to clean these things in September. Well, not in recent times. I haven't fished off here, but usually we go for the blue claw crabs. All right, let me do this. Whoop, too much, folks. Don't tilt while you're zoomed. I should turn notifications on. Anyway, that's looking south, and across the bay is the Barrier Beach, Fire Island, about 1.5 miles away, 1.75 miles, as the crow flies. And then on the other side of that is the Atlantic Ocean. And this particular location is about 65 miles east of New York City. Let's just pan around slowly here. There we go. All right, so that's looking to the south. And I'll just slowly move the iPhone around. Let's see if it follows the gimbal. We don't want to make anyone dizzy by panning too fast here. This is looking to the east, northeast, and then this is looking to the north. So right now the air temperature is about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Time is 3:20 6:20 local time, Eastern Daylight Time. Let's go see if I can get rid of this Canada goose over here, which is one of these Canada geese that doesn't migrate anymore, and all they do is make a mess here. So hopefully we won't lose the signal as I walk over to the neighbor's yard to chase this goose back into the water. Hey, long-necked goose, get out of here. I don't want to harass the wildlife, but these things make some mess. Oh, there he goes. Back down the ramp. Patrick, so you're 6 hours ahead of us. Yeah, Imelda Marcos, yes. Years ago, when she and her husband was dictator of the Philippines at that time, and she had the estate here in our area for a while. But then when he was overthrown, the Philippine government seized their place. It was a place for them to park money in America, Imelda and Ferdinand Marcos. So they were looting the Philippines treasury and parking their money all over the world. And it turned out they had a waterfront estate here in our area with the gold-plated tub knobs and things, bathtub knobs. Here's our temperature for the day. About 60 degrees right now. 15 degrees Celsius in round numbers. Here again are the houses. Let's see, am I still zoomed in? Let me see if I can zoom out of that. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm walking around with this still zoomed. Well, lucky dog, it was a private residence for a while. A woman from New York City tried to make a go of it as a bed and breakfast, upscale bed and breakfast, and also where you could have wedding receptions. But I understand she just recently sold it back, and it's now back as a private residence. I believe that's the latest version. Yeah, I did. Pine needles. Yeah, all the cavities for the purple martin houses are filled with the dried pine needles for the birds to start. When they come in, they have a starter for making nests. Oh, Sydney, you're in Sydney, Australia. Well, good morning to you. Good day. Welcome on the other side of the world. Thank you very much for joining us here from New York, from Long Island, New York, where it's almost 3:30 in the afternoon on Monday afternoon. So 22°C, that's good. Well, you're going into autumn now, right? You're in your autumn season in Sydney, right? But that's a good temperature for you folks. Thank you very much for that comment. How are you doing in Australia these days? I hope the bulk of the fires and everything are over with right now, or are you still facing that problem? Yeah, hopefully they will, Lucky Dog. We expect them nominally in the window from April 1st to April 15th. Last year, I believe it was April 11th, they arrived here at this site. So they'll be here within a week or so. They'll start showing up. You'll get a group of 5 or 6 to arrive at first, and then every few days there'll be another half a dozen birds arrive from Brazil. Fires are out, which is good, but unfortunately now the COVID-19 pandemic, which I'm sure is hitting Australia just as hard as it is other places in the world and here in New York. Right now, New York City is like what they call the epicenter of the disease here in America. Although the numbers here on Long Island, which is Nassau County and Suffolk County, are growing rapidly every day. I think Suffolk County, Lucky Dog, what were the figures today? I think we're almost to 14,000 reported cases here in Suffolk County now. Oh, well, this is what we need to do when people are in trouble, right? We try to send our resources and things like that where they can be of some help. Yeah, the numbers here in Suffolk, Nassau is a little bit higher. I was looking at the Suffolk County map of the spread of it, and most of it is in western Suffolk, in the more populated areas. As far as the martins getting here, they are a peaceful diversion to have here. We look forward to our purple martins arriving from Brazil every spring and here with us for the summertime. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, purple martin is North America's largest swallow, and they annually migrate between North America and South America. So this is our spring now. So the purple martins who, for us, overwinter in Brazil are now making their way back to North America, where they breed here. And we along the east coast here, and as a matter of fact, the eastern 2/3 of the United States, we put up housing for them because most of their natural habitat has disappeared. Natural nesting sites have disappeared. So the martins will be arriving. They'll go through the breeding season here, and then they'll raise their new purple martin families, and then they'll all migrate back to Brazil starting in August. Yeah, the next full moon, which is tomorrow night, I believe, Lucky Dog. I think Tuesday is the full moon, is another super moon. Let's watch this. Here's a skidoo coming in, although he's behaving himself. He's going less than 5 miles an hour here. Jet ski, right? So you'll see more and more boat traffic on the creek here as time goes by, as the weather gets warmer. There's somebody on a kayak over there. There's a lot of good people scoping in New York City. Marty NYC, 888 NYC is probably one of the best. He does walking tours in Manhattan because he lives on the west side of Manhattan. But Marty is hunkered down right now in his apartment. He's not going out very much these days, and I don't blame him. But Manhattan is practically a ghost town right now as far as the street scenes and everything. Dutch Maz primarily does YouTube broadcasts, and he's a licensed New York City tour guide, but he does a lot of walking tours and biking tours from his home in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Excellent live broadcasting done by Dutch Maz. Marty is terrific. I follow him. Usually I get an alert when he's broadcasting. I like to do live broadcasts when I do go into New York City, but I have not been in the city in quite some time, and I have no plans to go back to New York until this pandemic has tapered off, which truthfully is going to be months, not weeks. Yeah, Marty is very informative. He tells you what's going on. But Lucky Dog and others, we'll get back to our New York City walks again. We think positively there. Hopefully by midsummer or late summer, we'll start doing our walks on the High Line Park again. Maybe we'll get back up to the top of the One World Trade Center. You stay safe too. We will do our social distancing here for sure. Only in time of need do we run down to the local grocery market. And now that's with a mask on and rubber gloves on and all the good things like that. Oh, the Cannonball. I'm looking forward to that if the railroad runs it this year. We're going to see what happens with the railroad schedule, because right now they're on their modified reduced service schedule. You know, it's the equivalent of a weekend schedule, the way that the times that the trains run and the number of trains. Oh, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Well, anybody who is interested, Lucky Dog's talking about my scopes and videos of the Long Island Railroad Cannonball, which is a special summer Friday night train that takes people out from New York City here to the east end of Long Island, to the Hamptons and Montauk. And you could go back and on my YouTube channel, JKR SpecNet, just look up Long Island Railroad Train 2798, the Cannonball, and you'll see all of these Cannonball videos from previous times. The last one was the last run of the year, which was Labor Day weekend 2019. And that'll give you an idea of what Lucky Dog is talking about. Andrea, good to see you. Thank you for joining. You snuck in on me. Yeah, I'm kind of hoping they do run the Cannonball, Andrea, because what that says is then that things are starting to get back to normal, that the railroad would then run their normal trains and their summer special trains. We don't know if that'll happen or not, but of course that's still 2 months away. Moonscopes. Well, I've done 1 or 2 of those, but you know what I like to do here? Of course, we do the full moon. Wonder if I can set up tonight for this. Was it another supermoon, Lucky Dog? I think that's what we said, right? This month is another supermoon. Maybe I'll set up on the deck for that tonight. I like to do these, what we call the silent sunrise, because we can look to the east. Now this is facing to the east, the way I'm pointing right now. And usually in the wintertime they're better because I can see the sun coming up out of the southeast here later in the morning. In December it rises around 7:15 or so. I did a morning scope a week or two ago. We haven't really had that good of a morning weather where we have a clear view of the east. But right now, this would be the general direction we would be looking for sunrise scope and also a full moon scope. Let me check the calendar when I go back in and the weather site to see what time full moon is scheduled for. And I'll try to set up tonight to do that. Hi, Craig and Patchogue, how are you doing today? Oh, Lucky Dog, thank you for that comment. I hope that, I'm glad to hear that. That's what we're trying to do is just not go crazy with anything here, you know, but just bring a little peace and tranquility to folks and try to normalize things as best we can. So anyway, one more pan around the area here, folks, and then we'll yeah, less trains, less planes. Well, I mentioned that the other day, that this reminds me of the week after 9/11 when there was no air traffic whatsoever in North America, in and out of North America. And there are a few planes flying now, but very few, so it's quiet. This would be the time of day when all the jets would be on their final approaches into Kennedy Airport in Queens. Late afternoon approaches. They start the ones coming back from Europe and probably Africa also, but you know, they start their descent into Kennedy from out here. But it's been so quiet, practically zero jet contrails. So the sky is so much clearer. When the clouds are gone, there's less pollution in the sky from the jet contrails. It makes all the difference in the world. I mean, just look at that blue sky right now. Because on a normal afternoon here, you'd see the jet traffic returning from Europe. They'd be coming in out of the northeast, which is the direction I'm pointing right now. And they drop down below the 10,000 foot altitude and start throttling back. And then for their 60-mile descent into Kennedy Airport. So you'd see one after another of jetliners coming in from that direction. Yes, to answer your question there, did I ever see the Concorde fly in? Yes, I did. When the Concorde was flying between United Kingdom and New York, and also France and New York, they would vector it into Kennedy along the south shore of Long Island here. So what he had to do was get below supersonic speed, I guess maybe about 50 miles to the east of us. But every morning you could set your clock by it, as assuming that the planes were on time. You'd hear the double sonic boom as he went from supersonic to subsonic. And then I'm pointing the camera to the south again, and you could watch the Concorde fly along the south shore of Long Island here, heading into Kennedy. And you knew darn well it was the Concorde because it was so noisy. I mean, boy, that thing was loud. But we would watch them on a clear day. We would watch the Air France and the BOAC Concordes fly into Kennedy through this area. And then along those lines, hi John Hardy, good to see you. Flight 4590, you remember that one. In my Grumman days, I worked for the Grumman Corporation for 35 years in flight test out here on eastern Long Island, primarily at Calverton. But anyway, one of the major projects I was on for many, many years was the F-14 Tomcat. So when Grumman delivered F-14 Tomcat fighters to the Navy, they usually would deliver them on a Friday afternoon. So Navy crews would come up from Patuxent River Naval Air Station or from Oceana Naval Air Station in Virginia to fly their brand new production F-14s from the Grumman plant here on Long Island to the Naval Air Station at Oceana. So I would get home from work around 4 o'clock, and I'd come down here and sit down here, and I knew that the takeoff time would be about 4:30. So you could hear the jets revving up. Now Calverton is about, as the crow flies, is about 15 miles to the north of me in that direction. It was the Grumman Flight Test Center and where the F-14s were built. So anyway, they usually would ferry 2 production planes at a time, and they'd get clearance from the Kennedy Tower to take off, and you'd hear them take off in afterburner, and then they would turn and they would fly due south, right where I'm looking here. So here I was sitting right on my bench, and I'd watch the F-14s flying right along like I'm panning right now. And then as soon as they got over Fire Island, the barrier beach over there 2 miles away, they would put it in afterburner again, and they would climb to cruising altitude. They would climb from, say, they were flying along here at about, say, 3,000 foot altitude, something like that. And then they would climb up to like 30,000 feet, heading down toward Virginia for delivering the F-14s. And we used to see that on every clear Friday afternoon, right, sitting here, right here in my front yard. That was quite a sight. That was a fine fighter jet. Yeah, I started working on the F-14 prototypes in 1970. F-14 number 1 was the first one I worked on, and that flew in December of 1970. And then I was on F-14 number 2, which was the high angle of attack spin ship, test ship. I worked on that for several years. And F-14 number 3, the structural loads airplane. And F-14 number 7, which was going to be the first F-14B with the new improved engines. So over the years of my Grumman career of 35 years, I spent, 20 plus years or more working on F-14 test airplanes of various types. Oh my goodness, yeah, and you were busy in there in Bethpage too, in flight pattern over Hicksville, because of course they were flying E2s out of Bethpage at that time, Gulfstream 1 and 2, and there was one F-14 test program I was on in 1979. And they did the modifications to it in Plant 5 in Bethpage, and then they flew it out of Bethpage. They got special permission to do a jet takeoff in Bethpage to fly it out here to Calverton. So that was quite a sight. I go once in a while, lucky dog. Sometimes when I'm over in Riverhead, I'll come home by way of Calverton and I'll stop by the Grumman Memorial Park. I haven't been over there in a long time though. Yeah, I worked on F-14D test airplane number 7, which is on the deck of the carrier Intrepid right now, the Intrepid Museum in Manhattan. So if any of you good people get to go to visit the Intrepid Museum in New York City, where is that, Pier 86, I believe, or something like that, on the west side. The F-14 up on the deck of the Intrepid is F-14 number 7, and that was the prototype F-14 they used for the development of using the new GE engines. And it became the test vehicle for F-14D. So I worked on that one many years ago. I worked on it back in 1973 when it was testing the new Pratt & Whitney engine at that time, but that engine did not work out. It just had a lot of problems with it, so they never incorporated that engine. But then in 1981, they started testing with the GE engine, and that eventually became the F-14D. Yeah, it was a huge airplane. Huge airplane. Well, the D was the ultimate model where you could fly off the deck without afterburner. Although they did afterburner takeoffs. The pilots loved it because it just handled so much better than the F-14As with the TF-30 engines. Did a lot of interesting things at Grumman, including the X-29 forward swept wing demonstrator back in 1984. That was quite a project. We did that testing out at NASA in California at Edwards Air Force Base. Although the plane was built here on Long Island in Bethpage and Calverton. Okay, gang. I hope you enjoyed our little visit to our little corner of the world. We got a nice cool breeze coming in off the ocean right now out of the south-southwest. It's still a beautiful day here, but it is getting a little cool right now, and I'm going to end this broadcast shortly. And this is what I will tell you. I will make a commitment to go check the time of full moon tonight, and if I can set up around that time, we'll do a live broadcast of the supermoon coming up here on eastern Long Island. Hopefully the sky will still be clear at that time. Yeah, there's a space shuttle Enterprise is on the deck of the Intrepid Museum also. That's one that did not ever go into orbit. That's the one that did the release flights from the 747, where the astronauts first did their shuttle approach tests out at Edwards Air Force Base. But Enterprise never went into orbit. But it had all the controls of the follow-on shuttles that went out into space. Okay, gang, thanks for joining me today, and please, everybody, stay safe, be well, think of those around you, and do the very best you can to do whatever we need to do to get through this. And trust me, folks, we'll all get through it. And we'll come out the other end better people for it. Lucky dog, all the very best to you over there at the hospital. Keep up your tremendous work, and give my best regards to all of your colleagues over there. Take care now.